Hey there, everyone. It's Juju Sober Son. November 16th. I have gotten rid of most of my inner conflicts. I was always at war with myself. I was doing things that I did not want to do. I was waking up in strange places and wondering how I got there. I was full of recklessness when I was drunk and full of remorse when I was sober. My life didn't make sense. It was full of broken resolves and frustrated hopes and plans. I was getting nowhere fast. No wonder my nerves were all shot. I was bumping up against a blank wall and I was dizzy from it. AA taught me how to get organized and to stop fighting against myself. Have I gotten rid of inner conflicts? I don't think we ever totally get rid of inner conflicts. We all have something to work on, But I do know that was one of the things that really brought me to myself it was sort of that moment of clarity. I had drunk all night long. I was living in a tent with like 5 other guys in Turkey, Incirlik Air Base, Turkey. And it was a deployment. We were visiting party and we were getting paid pretty well, so really it was a lot of partying, and it was drinking every night. But this particular night I had drank all night long and pissed off the guys in my tent, and decided to go for a walk with one of the guys that I was partying with. And we were walking and talking. It was a beautiful day, perfect weather, perfect temperature. It wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cool, and I think it was so clear you could see the mountains. So that's how nice of a day it was. And we were just sharing our hopes and desires and our our goals, I guess. It was more dreams than it was goals. But I remember he wanted to coach track and field. He wanted to be a track and field coach, and I had aspirations of being a millionaire by the time I was 30. And at one point had aspirations of getting a full ride basketball scholarship, and then perhaps even playing in the NBA. But what was happening with me was I knew that, and this is what I realized at that moment, was that grandiose as those dreams were, I wasn't getting anywhere closer to them because of my drinking. And so I realized at that point, maybe I won't drink during the week. That's what I told myself. I'm not going to drink during the week. Because I had already experienced abstinence from alcohol during Desert Storm in Saudi Arabia. We were under what they call it, General Order Number 1, where no alcohol. And the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia prohibits, has a prohibition against alcohol anyway. So I went for about 5 months without drinking, and I paid off my bills, and I saved some money. I got in good with the bosses, and I've shared this before, I'm sure. But I didn't realize it until that moment, that's what I was looking for when I volunteered to deploy to Turkey. I was trying to recapture that period of abstinence that I had, and that success without alcohol. I was trying to find it again. And first thing they did when I sat down on my cot when I first got there, I sat down on my cot and somebody handed me a beer. And in retrospect, it was kind of like, I remember feeling like this little twinge of disappointment. Like, oh yeah, that's right, we can drink here. I'm not going to get that same experience. But halfway through a 3-month deployment, I decided to get sober. And that's when I had that spiritual awakening. I believe it was a spiritual awakening that alcohol had kept me from all my goals and aspirations. And that if I wanted that back, I'd have to go for it deliberately instead of having it imposed on me. So it doesn't necessarily get rid of my inner conflicts, but AA, I haven't necessarily gotten rid of my inner conflicts, but I'm more able to deal with that stuff and recognize things when I abstain from alcohol. You know, they say every day I don't pick up a drink, I'm in with a chance. I have an opportunity to learn and love and grow. But I also have to do things that really, in retrospect, are no more difficult than feeding myself. You know, working the steps, quote unquote, working. It's really just nourishing my spirit by following the process that has been laid out for me in the 12 steps. First word of the first step is we. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. And that's the first step toward becoming, as this says, getting rid of inner conflicts. Because I'm going to take responsibility for things that I can take responsibility for. Identify things that I don't need to take responsibility for. And then learn to let go of those things. Give them to God. And God can still use that. God loves using that kind of stuff. So, every day I don't pick up a drink, I'm in with a chance. Meditation for the day. When 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, this is a quote, there am I in the midst of them, end quote. The Spirit of God comes upon His followers when they are all together at one time, in one place, and with one accord. In other words, pointed in the same direction, moving in the same direction, upward. When 2 or 3 consecrated souls are together in a meeting place, the Spirit of God is there to help and guide them. Where any sincere group of people are together, reverently seeking the help of God, His power and His Spirit are there to inspire them. Yeah, I don't know what that consecrated souls means. I guess means we're set aside for recovery. You know what I mean? We're all there for recovery. Some people are there to get their sheet signed or get out of hot water with their spouse, but they're few and far between, and yet they can benefit if they're sincere about that, frankly. It just doesn't have staying power. And I know that, and I say this all the time, if somebody would have just handed me a book, the big book, when I came to AA, and said, read this, buddy, you'll be fine. Come back when you're done reading it, and we'll discuss it. I think I would have just put it on the shelf with all the other self-help books. Quote, unquote, self-help books. The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is not a self-help book. It's much more. It's much more than that. But I would have assumed it was a self-help book if you, if they would have just given me that. Oh, a self-help book. Okay, just follow this self-help book. So this meeting thing is just kind of like a book club, huh? It's not so much. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be in accord with the members of my group. I pray that I may feel the strength of a consecrated group. Yes, we're all set aside for one thing. And I've heard people, and I recognize that this could be contempt prior to investigation with regards to church recovery fellowships, if you call them that. But I've heard that they are set aside, I guess, in terms of their they want to celebrate recovery, but they can't always speak specifically about what they are suffering from. So they're not, as this reading refers to, as consecrated. They're not set aside for their specific ism. And I've heard they do breakout groups and stuff like that. But that just seems like they're trying to churchify what AA has already done. And some people get a lot of great help from that, and that's awesome. And that's I'm glad to hear that. AA in the big book says we know only a little. If other people can figure out a way to get sober and stay sober, that's great. But as a church attender, as a Christian, personally, I think that's I don't know if Jesus would dig that too much. It's kind of like you come to the temple, and Jesus went out and was among his people, and he ate with prostitutes and that kind of rabble, so to speak, and let them know that they're loved. And I'm just saying that for me, it's important to not try to churchify my recovery, if that makes any sense. At any rate, keep coming back, y'all. Chin up, aim up, rise up. Love you.